The recruiting game is a fickle business. Dean Legge and I'm bringing in our expert on these matters, Matt DeBerry. Matt, we saw over the weekend Kirby Smart tell a five-star prospect, "Don't call me unless you're ready to commit." This was a video that over time put out there on social media, and Isaiah Gibson's a really big deal. But it's very curious to see behind the scenes what it was like to hear Kirby talk about to Gibson in this way.
Yeah, I mean, Kirby's not playing games, right? His time is precious, and he's got a lot of targets he's trying to bring into this 25 class. And yeah, he is a big deal. Recently decommitted from Southern Cal, guy from Warner Robins, right in the middle of their state, 5-star elite pass rusher. And Kirby saying, "Hey, it's good to talk to you. I know you'll be in town this weekend," and he was in Athens this past weekend. But like, hey, you want to FaceTime me, bring me some good news, right? We're waiting on you to jump on board. We need you to jump on board. Don't call me to talk, to chat. You know the deal here. You need me, let me know that you're jumping on board, and let's continue to get this thing rolling because Georgia recruiting's hot right now. And if you're a Dawg Post member, you know all about it. You know what to expect, and there could be some really good news coming this week. That's what I expect, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Isaiah Gibson, called Kirby Smart maybe this week, Dean, and said, "You know what? I'm not playing games either. I want to jump on board." It would be a massive commitment. But yeah, Kirby's been doing this for a while. He's been an ace recruiter since he was at Alabama. And again, his time's precious. So he doesn't want to be bothered by calls just to say, hey, but I think he obviously kind of said it in a joking manner too, but also in a realistic matter as well.
Yeah, well, everyone's time is precious and limited. We all know that, right? I mean, Kirby, I think the one thing at the beginning of his time at Georgia, you had people who had been there for such a long time that said, the thing that Kirby's so good at is time management. And this was an aspect of that, and saying not just a time management, but also pressuring, saying, "Hey, look, we need you to be here. Don't call me unless you're ready to commit." He said, and he started talking about how he was eager to see Gibson's mom. Your quote in this article on Dog Post is as follows. So let's just talk about this for a second while I put it up on the screen. I think Georgia's in the driver's seat with a possible commitment coming in the next few weeks before Gibson starts his senior season. Let's talk about this recruiting just for a second, because sometimes people watch your videos and sometimes they watch mine. A lot of times, there's crossfire, I guess you could say. With Gibson going to SC earlier in the year, your view, and this is the value of the membership at Dog Post, by the way, is what Matt is reporting right now and has been reporting for a long time. You did not feel like SC would land him at the end. I see your smirk, so go ahead and take it from there.
No, I think I said on Dog Post, like, hey, visit high type of deal. These kids from rural Georgia, Justice Terry too from Manchester. And this kid Isaiah Gibson from Warner Robins. They go out to Southern Cal. It's beautiful out there. We've been out there to
Yeah.
see Georgia win some big games. It's different. It's not Georgia, and they get the visit high. And Lincoln Riley's a good recruiter, and they brought in a really good defensive line coach who's done very well in the NFL. So they make it tough for kids to turn down a place like that. But even when Justice Terry flipped from Georgia to Southern Cal, I told members, like, they're not signing there. And it's funny if these Southern Cal fans think that they're going to come into Georgia and land elite defensive linemen that Georgia needs in this class, right? It's great to get them on the commit list in the spring. It's good publicity, right? But they were never signing with Southern Cal. And I was kind of expecting both of them to decommit from Southern Cal maybe a little earlier than they did. But it's not a surprise to anyone who's familiar with our work and has been on Dog Post. So we knew that was happening, and it did. And we'll see. I think Justice Terry might wait till closer to signing day, and maybe Isaiah Gibson does too. I mean, you don't want to commit two different places and then back away two different times, right? It's just not a great look. But if they're ready, Kirby Smart is going to say, "Hey, come on board. We need you." But he is a really good player. I know he's ranked as the number one edge in the country. I don't know if he's the number one edge. I think he's a really good player. I'm not saying he's the best thing since sliced bread because I think he's going to end up at Georgia. But he is a good player who's got size and he's explosive. And you got to remember, Georgia didn't necessarily take someone like him in last year's cycle. They took Chris Jones, who could play outside linebacker, but they took two outstanding middle linebackers But we did see Quintavious Johnson at Mays, who could be the most underrated, slept-on guy they signed. But he's 6'5", 250, and he's going to be playing with those outside linebackers where Isaiah Gibson will be if he does commit to Athens or commit to Georgia. I think that's a real possibility. But he's a really good player and a guy that Georgia has wanted for a long time now in this class.
Hey, listen, you're going to want to go to Red Zone, our buddies over in Athens. Make sure you're visiting Scott and Mindy when you go. I know it's the summer, but I know a lot of y'all are visiting. So it's downtown on Clayton Street. Make sure you are, if you're walking from the Arch, you're going to go north 1 block. You'll take a left, and you'll see our buddies at Red Zone not soon far after that. And they've got, honestly, listen, I like the bookstore. The bookstore at Georgia is great, but it's insane. And you do not get the personal touch. So make sure that you're going to see Scott and Mindy, and I can assure you that they, Matt and I have been there multiple times for events. They're not just partners but friends. So make sure you're checking out Red Zone when you go to Athens. I think when you start talking about you're talking about Quintavious Johnson and you've got Isaiah Gibson, these outside guys. You have I don't think he's going to be the number 1 overall pick, but you have a guy on the roster right now that could be the number 1 overall NFL draft pick who's an outside, pass rushing edge guy. These are coveted. This is such an important position, because the most important position in football is the quarterback. So naturally, what's the second most important position? And, or what affects that position? The pass rusher. And I think that a kid from Warner Robins, which I'm not going to get into the debate of what is and is not Middle Georgia, Matt, because I'm not smart enough for that. That's beyond my capacity. But he is a high-level player. There are a slew of them in Georgia this year. Whether you're talking about the quarterback in Carrollton or defensive lineman in Savannah, there are 7 or so top 25 players in Georgia, and that's actually a little bit high.
Yeah, I mean, Zayden Walker from Sly County.
Right.
I think that's right on that middle South Georgia line there. He's very good.
Like that, I don't know that I would call Sly County middle Georgia, but I don't know to call it South Georgia, but I know that they probably have their own definition of it. They've had players that come through there for some time now.
Absolutely,
Ellaville. And Ellaville, Georgia. I know that part. We might be mispronouncing the county name, Matt. But I know it is Ellaville.
Toombs County. There's a safety out there that Georgia really likes. So you can find players in Georgia, and everyone knows that. Josh Petty's a 5-star from Roswell that Georgia's not going to land, but it's very talented across the state this year, and Georgia's done a really good job of getting those in-state targets. The quarterback, Julian Lewis, they made that offer to him and they made their pitch, but they weren't going to wait around. They needed a quarterback on the commit list. And so they went and got the kid that wanted to be at Georgia. And I don't know where Julian Lewis is going to land. That's a guy who also could decommit from Southern Cal at some point, maybe end up at Colorado or Auburn.
Man, if you're SC, you can't make a living off of kids from Georgia. It's literally never worked. They signed Jarvis back in the day, and you can't make a living on it. You can get a guy here or there like Georgia could here or there in California, but you can't. So I get what Lincoln's doing. Go ahead, Matt.
You have to try.
You have to try.
That's where the elite defenders are. You have to try, and they're trying to get the best. I mean, respect, right? Major props for trying to go into the Peach State and land these guys.
You can't get them if they don't commit. You can't get them. So they're in the ball game at a minimum.
Yeah, and they had Michael Williams committed and wanted to get him out of the transfer portal as well. So they know where the dogs are, so to speak, and they're in Georgia, and they're doing a better job getting these guys on the commit list in the spring. But you got to hold on to them and get them in December, and that's where they're going to still have trouble even in the future.
Yeah, that's the part I think if you're Kirby and them. Making sure that you are doing your best to get the top players, that they're in state, for me, kind of whatever, but they just happen to be in the state this year. And of the kids that we talked about that are not Lewis, that are not Petty. I mean, Petty I thought was fine. I thought he was fine. That was a kid at Friendship in Roswell, right?
Yeah.
I think he's fine. I mean, I couldn't. I don't know. I don't think there. But as you and I say, there's no. First of all, it's offensive lineman, so they can be developed. He could be number one overall draft pick. Number two, no one player is going to make Georgia one way or the other. But in this case, Kirby doesn't want to hear from Gibson unless he's ready to party, and that means committing to Georgia. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.